What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with the overall market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, as far as the market's going, we had this big news that came out that President Trump announced an EU trade deal with a 15% tariff. And he said that the EU is going to be investing a lot of money into the US and buying billions of dollars worth of US energy. So that was some good news for the markets. That's why the stock market gapped up. And we saw this like very, very nice pump to about 640. But instead of holding above 638 to continue this pump, the problem is the market's now showing a little bit of weakness. It's showing some signs of rejection right here. And there is a gap to fill that would take us back down to not only 637.5, but there's also this like gap that's overnight. There's an overnight gap towards the 637 area. So we might be returning down there to test that. And we'll see if we could bounce off 637. If not, this could dip a little bit more. And I just want to give you guys a warning about that. This is kind of like a pump and dump. We did push very nicely, and if we had held critical support, we could have continued to pump really well. I want to see if we could hold above 638 to try to pump more, but if we can't, we're looking for that gap filled, and the overnight gap could also get filled over here. So I just want to give you guys a warning about that. You want to be very, very patient, at least nonetheless. Now, for today, it's Monday, July 28th, the last week of July. At 10:30 a.m., we have the Dallas Fed manufacturing numbers, so expect some volatility around there. And then at 11:30 a.m., we have the 2-year note auction, the 6-month bill auction. So look for some volatility at that time. Now, when it comes to the trade deals, President Trump has been talking about how there could be more deals coming. As a reminder, we've had a deal with the EU, a deal with Japan, Indonesia, the Philippines, and many other countries like the UK. Some deals came out with China, but there's more deals to be coming. But if there's no more deals, just hypothetically, these are the rates we're essentially looking for. And by the way, for India, they're still negotiating. There could be a deal coming very soon for them. But if there aren't any more deals, these are the tariffs we're looking for: a 35% tariff on Canada, 30% tariff on Mexico, 25% tariff on South Korea, and then one of the highest ones is Brazil with the 50% tariff. We'll see if these change or not, but these are the tariffs that are going to be set to take effect on August 1st, unless we get some deals. Also for China, the deadline has been extended by up until August 12th. That's the new deadline for them to have a tariff agreement. So that's some big news. We'll see how that goes for them. And then we have big tech earnings. We're actually seeing this right over here. SoFi and PayPal announced earnings on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we have Meta and Microsoft. And Thursday, we have Apple and Amazon. So keep that in mind. There was some big news that came out for Tesla about how Samsung's going to be making Tesla's AI6 chip in a deal worth about $16.5 billion. That's some good news for them, but we're going to see how well we hold up, at least nonetheless. So I want to see SPY hold at least 638.5 for us to turn bullish. If we get back above 638.5, we're looking for an attempt for 640. If we can't hold above 638.5, okay, there's going to be a risk of us returning to fill this gap around 637 flat. And we'll see if we bounce off that or not. If 637 fails, so still we could be dipping lower towards like 635 or so. So lose 637, we're going to be a little bit more bearish, looking for a smaller move down, but it's just a temporary move down. We can still bounce later on. But if we hold above 638.5, we're looking for a bigger bounce. So I do think that there might be a little bit of consolidation here, but there is going to be a risk of us dipping a little bit to fill this gap here. Then we'll see if we could bounce off 637 or not. So keep that in mind for SPY. There might be a small dip coming before some buyers attempt to defend. On the QQQ, we have a bigger gap. Notice the gap is all the way down here in the 567 area, and then the overnight gap is around 566.3. If we're bullish, you want to hold above 568 to push higher, but if we can't hold above that, it's the odds favor consolidation, and eventually move down to not only fill this gap, but come back down to 566. So watch that level very closely. We do have some downside risk on the QQQ, so be careful. For the IWM, we could try to test 226. We need to hold above this to push once again and break out. If we can't hold above 226, though, I could see us basically kind of turn back down to 224, and we'll see how well we hold up. For ES, we could be dipping back down to 64.27 between there and the lower 6400s, and we'll see if buyers defend. And we need to get back above 64.50 to turn higher. So I do think the odds favor basically a move back down towards 6400, and we'll see if buyers defend or not. So be very, very careful, at least nonetheless. For NQ, we could be dipping back down towards this gap fill all the way down towards 23,416. We'll see if we bounce off this or not, but there are going to be some downside risks for our 20 EMA. For Bitcoin, we could be dipping back down to about 118,400, and we'll see if buyers defend. Otherwise, the odds favor us dipping a little bit more here, so be careful once we hit these supports. For Tesla, we could be dipping back down towards 317.8 to fill that gap. I would have liked it to hold above 320s, try to push for 325, but if it doesn't hold, we could dip just a little bit for essentially the 317 to 316 area. Now, if we dip towards 316 to 317, we need to bounce from there and start going higher. If we don't hold 316, which is where the 200 EMA is right here, we could be dipping lower. So I want to see it bounce between 316 and 317. Otherwise, Tesla will be dipping lower. So look for a small dip and we'll see if buyers defend. Nvda is consolidating. It could be dipping to fill this gap around 173.5 to about 172. And we'll see if we bounce or not. So look for some downside to fill this gap and we'll see if buyers defend. For Appl, we could be dipping to about 213.6 and we'll see if buyers defend or not. We might be coming down a bit, so be very, very careful. AMD is looking decent. We have to see if we hold above 170 or not. If not, there is a gap to fill at 166. So we need to hold above 170. If we don't, I think 166 gets tested on AMD. Coinbase pumped and then only to dump back down. We did see this pump coming, only for it to reject. So I'm going to be looking for 392. We need to hold that, or else we could be dipping to 388. Amazon's holding up well. We have resistance right here around 234. We need to hold above that. There's a gap down here at 231, so it might return to that gap area if we don't continue to push. Meta may try to push for 718. We'll see if we reject or not. If we lose 713, though, we could turn more bearish. I think we might be testing 718, and we'll see if we reject. So there might be a small push on Meta. And then for Google, we're consolidating. There's a gap over here on 193 points or 194. I think we could be dipping to 192.5. We'll see if we bounce. Then Microsoft could also be dipping towards like 512.5. So we'll see how it goes. The VIX is looking a bit more bullish. We're going to see if this continues to break higher or not. So give this the time it needs. With that being said, guys, the market is seeing a rejection right here. So the odds do favor SPY kind of dipping a bit. Same thing with the QQQ, just temporarily. Now, we did pump with this EU trade deal. We did see a very, very nice pump during the pre-market. And earlier, we did actually pump quite a bit, only for the market to slow down again. So we're going to see if we get another trade deal with India or some other pieces of news that could help the market push. So watch for volatility when it comes to our economic calendar at these times. Then we'll see what happens. Keep in mind, there's plenty more to come for the market as we have lots of big tech earnings and FOMC in the upcoming days. So all of that could still help the market break out higher or even dump. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, for now, watch your levels and just be prepared for a small amount of downside. We'll see if the market could bounce off critical supports. Watch the levels I called out, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you for listening, and peace out.